Maybe it's this. Is it? Okay. Interesting. So in this piece, Van Gogh's, well, obviously, okay, it was painted in the south of France. Is it Arles or I'm it's probably Arles or something, right? 1889, and he only lived till 1880, so these were right at the end. Sunflowers among his most famous, and he painted a total of 5 large canvases in 3 shades of yellow. That's what I really wanted to harp on. That really rang true with me. In other words, a minimal palette. In this way, he demonstrated that it was possible to create an image with numerous variations of a single color without any loss of elegance. So, in other words, he's color theming. I usually call this, theming my palette. So I thought that would be an interesting thing to play with. And just some other little notes here. He hung the first in the room with a friend, Gauguin, and he was so impressed, he thought, anyway, Gauguin asked for it as a gift, and Vincent was reluctant to give it to him. He produced 2 loose copies, however, one of which is now in the Van Gogh Museum. So, interesting. Anyway, just a little interest there, and a little, just a, this is things you didn't know about the tortured life of Vincent van Gogh. You probably know, but oh well.
Vincent van Gogh was marked by poverty, loneliness, rejection, and mental illness. He was so poor he frequently had to choose between purchasing food or canvas paint. Van Gogh was a failure in just about everything he did in life. At the same time, he was an artistic genius, way ahead of his time. Today, we're going to take a look at some facts about the tortured, miserable life of Vincent van Gogh. But before we get started,
one thing I want to point out is that, I mean, a failure, this guy's so committed. It's unbelievable how committed he is to his art. Probably as much as any artist. And we're talking about, he leaves somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 paintings. Or is it just 10,000 works of art, or whatever it is? But anyway, it's a lot of thousands. I wouldn't call this a failure, just because he didn't get acknowledged by his public, which is really odd, because so many of his contemporaries, Toulouse-Lautrec does a portrait of him. Obviously, he knows and respects him. All of these great artists knew about him. You'd think that he would have got some recognition, but oh well.
Be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel and let us know in the comments below what other artists you would like to hear about. Okay, now to understand how he suffered for his sanity. In the summer of 1888, Van Gogh left Paris and headed to Provence, a region in the south of France. Supported financially by his art dealer brother Theo, he ultimately settled in the town of Arles. That's where he rented a house and began to dream of establishing an artist colony where he and other like-minded painters could live and work. Theo and Vincent were acquainted with Paul Gauguin, another cutting-edge impressionist that both men admired professionally. It took some persuasion, but in October of 1888, Gauguin agreed to move to the house. Initially, the 2 artists functioned reasonably well together. Gauguin was a streetwise former stock exchange worker, and Van Gogh was a talented but troubled young man. Unfortunately, the acerbic and condescending Gauguin and the sensitive, needy Vincent van Gogh quickly began to get on each other's nerves. Eventually, sensing that Gauguin was preparing to abandon him to the so-called artistic colony, Van Gogh got drunk and angry. According to Gauguin, on December 23rd, after yet another savage argument, he moved out and checked into a hotel where Van Gogh threatened him with a knife. Supposedly, Van Gogh sliced off much of his left earlobe, walked to a familiar brothel, and presented the bloody appendage to a prostitute named Rachel. Rachel fainted on the spot. Flowers might have been a better choice, and less bloody. Because Gauguin's self-serving account is the only one that remains, speculation about its accuracy continues to this day. One recent theory holds that Gauguin, an accomplished fencer, was actually the one who lopped off the ear during the pair's final argument. Whatever the case, Van Gogh evaded police on the night of the 23rd. However, since they knew his identity, the authorities eventually made it to his home, where they discovered him in his blood-soaked bed. The young artist was taken to the hospital and eventually committed himself to a mental asylum. Although the two artists would never see each other again, they would continue to correspond. In fact, just weeks later, Gauguin would send Van Gogh a letter requesting the return of paintings that he had previously gifted to Vincent. Friend breakups are never pretty. In 1889, Van Gogh was invited to exhibit at Les Vins, the 20th, an annual art show in Brussels sponsored by 20 local artists who displayed their own work as well as the work of invitees. Vincent submitted 3 landscapes, 2 sunflower studies, and a painting titled The Red Vineyard. Anna Bosch, the sister of one of Van Gogh's friends, paid 400 francs for the painting, which is about the equivalent of $2,000 today. Van Gogh's work had been greeted by many in the art community with derision, so Anna made the purchase to encourage him. Amazingly, this is the only publicly recorded sale of a Van Gogh that occurred in his lifetime. Today, the Red Vineyard hangs in the Freedom Museum in Moscow. In May of 1889, Van Gogh voluntarily committed himself to the St. Paul Asylum in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence. He was granted some studio space so he could paint, and many of the works that he turned out during this period were merely landscapes of the view from his asylum room, as the bars. However, for what would become his most famous painting, The Starry Night, he was allowed to sketch a nightscape. The swirling skies and aura around the stars have been interpreted as everything from the symbolism of infinity to hallucinations resulting from Van Gogh's mental illness. Today, it's worth millions, but the artist thought so little of The Starry Night that he actually withheld it from the batches of paintings he routinely sent to his brother to sell in Paris, because he wanted to save money on postage. Of the painting, he commented in a letter, "Once again I let myself go, reaching for stars that are too big. A new failure. I have had enough of it." Without Theo Van Gogh, you would never have heard of Vincent van Gogh. It was Theo who first encouraged his brother to pursue art as a vocation, and because his instability and mental illness made him virtually unemployable, most of Vincent's financial support came from Theo as well. Theo was also a strong proponent of Impressionist art and artists, when it was still a relatively undiscovered school of painting. Vincent lived with Theo in Paris from 1886 until 1888, and through Theo's business contacts, he met some of the most prominent artists of the time period, including Toulouse-Lautrec, Pissarro, Seurat, Cézanne, and of course, Gauguin. Theo and Vincent's remarkable relationship and Theo's unflagging encouragement and emotional support are chronicled in the numerous letters that they exchanged. Discussing his brother with another artist friend, Theo even prophetically commented, "I should not be surprised if my brother were one of the great geniuses, and will one day be compared to someone like Beethoven." On July 27, 1890, Van Gogh made his way to the wheat fields just north of his residence at an inn in Auvers-sur-Oise. He had borrowed a pistol from his innkeeper for the stated purpose of scaring off crows while he was painting. Instead, he is believed to have turned the gun on himself. Coincidentally, one of Van Gogh's final paintings is the haunting and symbolic wheat fields with crows, an abstract work filled with black crows, paths leading nowhere, and ominous skies. It depicts the field where Van Gogh attempted to kill himself. Wounding himself in the chest, he would stumble back to his inn, saying little about what he had done, and die 30 hours later with his brother at his side. The cemetery that Vincent and Theo are buried in is only a few hundred feet from the spot on which he finished the painting. Vincent van Gogh was reclusive and, by most accounts, socially inept. However, he still attempted to romance and even marry almost every female acquaintance he ever had. For example, while living in England in his early 20s, he was rebuffed by the daughter of a landlady who was engaged to another man. He was also famously rejected by his first cousin with the phrase, "No, nay, never," because one was probably enough. Demonstrating behavior that today we would identify as stalking, he then showed up in Amsterdam to continue the pursuit. His cousin, for her part, would not even agree to see him. In 1882, Van Gogh made the acquaintance of a seamstress and prostitute named Clasina Maria Hoornik. Hoornik had a 5-year-old daughter and was expecting a child fathered by a man who had abandoned her. Eventually, she would move in with Van Gogh, making it the only known domestic relationship he enjoyed in his life. He told Theo he wanted to marry the woman, but his apoplectic pastor father demanded he end the relationship, and his brother advised the same. Vincent eventually left Clasina Hoornik. As a parting gift, it turns out she gave Vincent the gift of gonorrhea. Van Gogh was one of 6 children in his family, and he wasn't the only one who struggled with mental illness for his entire adult life, and then ended it in suicide. Theo Van Gogh died under mysterious circumstances that are historically obscure but may have been related to syphilis, suicide, or mental illness. The third brother, Cornelius, was 14 years younger than Vincent and lived in South Africa. After his marriage disintegrated, he enlisted during the war-British conflict, was captured, and ended his life at the age of 33. Wilhelmina Van Gogh would spend the last 4 decades of her life in a mental institution, suffering from conditions that were similar to Vincent's maladies. The innkeeper who housed Vincent van Gogh at the Auberge Rahoux for the last 3 months of the artist's life was Arthur Rahoux. His family got to know the artist, who even took his meals with them. In fact, it was his absence at dinner on the day he attempted suicide that first alerted everyone something was seriously wrong. Upon Van Gogh's death, Arthur Rahoux, not wanting to appear greedy, refused any additional paintings from Theo, save for the 2 he already possessed, a portrait of his daughter Adeline and a landscape of their town hall, which Van Gogh painted from the street in front of the inn. Both paintings were displayed in the auberge until the Rahoux family moved to the town of Moulins and operated a cafe there. In 1905, 2 American artists staying in Moulins heard that Arthur Rahoux had 2 Van Goghs and asked to see them. When they mentioned that the paint was already deteriorating and he should give the artworks to them to be preserved properly, Rahoux demanded that he be paid something, despite his belief that the paintings were virtually worthless. They quickly settled on a price, 40 francs, the equivalent of about $10 American at the time, and around 300 of today's dollars. Joanna Jo Van Gogh Bonner was born in Amsterdam in 1862 and married Theo Van Gogh in 1889. While this should have been a happy occurrence for both, the marriage and the son it produced may have been the main factors in Vincent's decision to end his own life. Many believe that Vincent feared that Theo, now with a growing family, would soon be unable to support him. With Theo's death shortly after Vincent's, it was left to Jo Van Gogh to make something of the then worthless artistic legacy. She promoted Vincent's work to prominent art dealers and through her publication of Letters to Theo in 1914. The book began a public fascination with the work and life of Vincent van Gogh that never subsided. After her death, her son Vincent Willem, named for his uncle, continued her work and established the foundation that is responsible for the Vincent van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. In 1990, one of the 2 Van Gogh Portrait of Dr. Gachet paintings was auctioned off by its owners. The painting was one of several Van Goghs owned by banker Siegfried Kramarski, who died in 1961. Kramarski bought the painting when the Nazi government purged it from a Frankfurt art museum and ordered it sold because they considered Van Gogh a degenerate. The auction caused a sensation in the art world when a Japanese industrialist, Ryohei Saito, bid $82.5 million, an amount that far exceeded the expected price of $40 million and set a new world record. Saito irritated many in the art world by placing the painting in his private office and then declaring that, upon his death, he wanted to be cremated while clutching the portrait in his arms. Lucky for the art world, Theo subsequently experienced severe financial difficulties, and the painting was reportedly sold. Its whereabouts today, however, are unknown. The record price would stand until May 2004, when it was broken by Picasso's Boy with a Pipe, which is $93 million. So what do you think? Who was your favorite painter? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it,
All right.
They were interesting, fun facts.
Yeah, you know, I know we've already watched a couple of videos on them already, so I thought, why not go into some of the little details? Okay, so let's do a value study. It's a pretty high-key painting. The painting is, in other words, on the value scale, if 10 is how dark the darkest dark is, and you know, let's say white is 0, and you know, it's the darkest dark in this painting is only about well, we got one way up in the left hand corner. That's pretty dark. Yeah, probably about maybe an 8 or a 9. But generally speaking, the whole key of the painting is pretty light. You know, nothing really darker than a 5. Mostly, there's just a few other darks. So people would call this, you know, not the highest key painting, but a mid to high painting. Definitely not a dark painting, and definitely in the key of yellow. So earlier in the article, it said that he worked in 3 shades of yellow. I'm seeing a lot more than that, but I don't know. You know, sometimes you get writers involved with the whole thing, and I don't know what they're talking about. I'm seeing like 20 shades of yellow. What do you? Maybe they're all derived out of 3 yellows, possibly. I don't know. I'm definitely in the background. In the very background, you can see he's using a lemony yellow, very cool type yellow. So, and let's say the bottom of the background, that's definitely a warm, like a yellow ochre. And even in the background, you know, behind the lemon yellow, there's something a little bit warmer back there. So it's not just one yellow in that background. And then many warm yellows in the actual sunflowers themselves. So we're definitely going to want to make a whole bunch of yellow with, you know, red and blue in them, but totally dominated by yellow. So you mix red, yellow, and blue, but you're getting a very, very, very much a yellow. So you're getting, I'm seeing something like raw umber in there, yellow ochre, yellow lemon yellow, cad yellow, you name the yellow, it's probably in there. And then what is up with these little blue, like the blue around some of the middle of the sunflowers, and then his name, of course, at the bottom, right in the vase, in blue. And get kind of close up into that little color field where he painted his name. There's little violets in there and yellows. He's doing complementary color things. I mean, wow. Okay, so anyway, let's do a value study first. And I'll just draw this out real quick here. We have let's just draw a circle there, one there. There's a center, maybe this one over here out toward the edge. These don't have to be perfect. something like that. And we'll just, just gonna do a value state here, nothing fancy. Over here, and a couple of stems. Okay. That's pretty good. Okay, and move this line here. Okay. So just value-wise, it's a high-key painting. So let's put a very light value in the background. These don't have to be all perfect. We're just trying to do a study of where our lights and darks are. And then this area down here gets a bit darker. Just a bit though, not that much. Maybe just a tad more. Okay. Just a bit. Just a tad. All right. Who came up with these words? All right. I know bit means something, right? Isn't that some sort of monetary form? Like a bit of gold? I don't know. Let's not get the random thoughts going now. I know you guys are. You probably know every little detail about it. All right. This one's a bit darker. Well, bit started with the Romans. Just joking. Okay, that one. And by the way, I love that about you. So these are a bit darker than even the bottom here. So I need it, that needs to go darker. There we go. There's the value. These two in here were too dark. I mean, you see how this silhouette's up against that background? So it's pretty dark. I could be a little more careful for that to go over there. Even your lightest yellows in here are still a little bit darker than the background. So we're going to have to go pretty light with that background. Even these really light, let's just put those in there first. Yeah. These ones over here, I'm just going to go a little darker. Now, even these. Let's make them all. Even this very. This right here is almost just a little bit darker than the background. And he doesn't use that much line. Well, he uses these very light lines around his little petals. But he gets into these pretty dark lines down here. Now, some of the greens, I want to go a little bit darker, like right in here. Over here. This one, and these. And the back of this. And this one. It gets really quite dark in here. Fairly dark with these lines. Let's just hit a couple of those. Oh. Even around the greens, he's hitting these lines to get things to stand out. It's a great little tool to put in your toolbox. Again, this is why we study masters. And not only does he do this, but Delacroix too. Look at Delacroix is quite the master. He'll have two things very similar in value, and then he'll come back and throw in a line to help separate things. I could have been a little lighter with these petals here, or maybe the middle's a little darker. That's what it is. And it gets quite a little darker on the center. Yes.
Does this painting represent different types of sunflowers? Because those very compact ones, is that along the growth line that they start out that compact, or a different type of sunflowers all in the same vase?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you have the big sunflowers that have mostly lost their petals.
Right.
And then the smaller ones, they look a lot more lively. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do not know.
All right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. So I need a little bit darker. Okay. All right, so I would have liked to get a little more silhouette. Yeah, there we go. Up against the background here. It's just watercolor drying light again. That's pretty dark. How about the inside of this one over here, red? It's a little bit darker. But red. He's got his red, yellow, and blue in there, though, right? Yeah. Okay, so the value study. Let's go for the color notes. Color study here. Right off the bat, I think it might behoove you to just take okay. You might want to take some lemon yellow. I didn't realize my colors were so dirty. Lemon yellow and cad yellow. Put them out there. We're going to use a lot of yellow. Can you tell? I'm just going to put them right out there on my palette here. I'm not going to mess around because there's going to be some serious yellow going on. And that yellow in the background is so it's almost chartreuse. You know, it's really got green in it. Now that could be a flaw in the picture. I mean, in the photography, and it usually is. But I'm gonna take it as it is. So my lemon yellow is warmer than that. Wow. So anyway, let's go ahead and just, you know, this one over here. Just this one. Dead one here. Yeah, it'd be a good place to start in the background. Let's try some straight lemon yellow. It's not green enough. I would add just the slightest touch of Prussian blue. And it is very light. Maybe something more like that. And then I'll add water because I want it to dry light. You know, and if you look, there's little subtle areas where he is actually using something a little bit warmer. So I just let yourself be open to that. And just in a couple of areas, have some little things that are not too big, warmer. I'd almost argue that he's a little bit greener than that. Wow. I mean, quite green. All right, so, and then the bottom part here, if you mix a complex yellow, which is all you need to do is take cat red, ultramarine blue, and add it to, let's try cad yellow here. It's cooler than that. Again, my little test sheet here. Now it's cooler than that. So I want to, and lighter too. So I'm going to add some lemon yellow to that, and I'm going to add some water. I think we're somewhere in that neighborhood. It's not that much darker, but it is a little bit darker. I see a lot of this color. Yeah, no, I think that could have been a little bit lighter. That's weird that it's turning a little dark. We'll see if it tries a little lighter. Maybe I put it down a little strong. So I'll not load up on so much. Yeah, that's the same color with just a little more water. And I'll put it over here. Probably something more like that. Okay. And I see that color in some of the petals. But how about we just do these centers first? Now, they've got quite a bit more red and blue in them, which is making them quite a bit darker. So, and what else?
Rob,
Yeah.
I looked up the stages of sunflowers, and just those centers without the petals are really the sunflowers dying. So maybe he just,
Yeah.
you know, this is what he could put together, or maybe he's really attracted to that part of the sunflower life. Who knows?
He can make anything look good. Look how the gesture and the rhythm he gets in them. They just have a bounce to them, you know. It just looks so human. I don't know. Okay. So I'm going to come in here. Now that's just red, yellow, and blue. How do you make it? Well, I can't tell you the exact percentages. I will tell you, though, there's more yellow in this than anything else. Oh, I'm always forgetting all these little details. Sorry. There we go. Right, so it's still red, yellow, and blue. A lot of these colors are red, yellow, and blue, but they're just dominated by the yellow. How much? That's kind of your call. Very similar colors, so some of these petals on this one back here are pretty dark, almost as dark as these. I had a little bit more yellow to them. And then for the middle of this part, I added even more yellow. That's for the dark part. I see some of that dark in here too. Okay. maybe, yeah, it's pretty similar up here too. A little variation to it, but maybe a little redder. Speaking of red, we have that red in here. Crazy. It's a pretty dark red, so, and it's keyed in with the other color, so it does have yellow in it. I'm going to take this color right here and add it to my cad red. So I'm just adding this color right here to cad red. That looks very red, so I'm going to dull it down a little bit with a little bit more, maybe a touch of blue in it. To dull that down a little bit, let's see. Like that. We have this one up here, we have the dark in it. Since I have this dark on my brush already, I'm going to add a little more red, a little bit more ultramarine blue, and I'm coming up with a color like this, pretty dark for these dark lines. They're not really dark. I might be a little too dark. So I'll just add a little touch of water. Remember, mostly we're going for the color on this, so don't worry if your values aren't perfect. You have a little red in there too. It's very similar to the, no, it's not quite as red as this in there. So you can use those to gauge it. So it's more red than all these yellows, but not quite as red as this. All right. I don't know why I didn't do this one. What else? I gotta get these blues in there. So weird. I mean, looks like a very thinned out ultramarine blue to me. I'm just gonna put that in there. Well, it's pretty light too. Maybe not that light. Maybe more like that. Let that dry up. And he puts it in here too. And his name, but I'm gonna paint right over that. This color below his name, I mean, I would call that a beige, but it almost looks like, is he mixing right on the surface? Let's see. Such a beautiful color. So yeah, this color right down in here in the base of this, where his name is, I would just call that beige, just to give it a name. And so I'm going to add a lot more blue and red to the yellow. I think you might even want to add a little magenta for that particular. Ultramarine blue, magenta, and yellow. Got to have the yellow in there. Give that a little test. That's too yellow. I need to really thin that out. So you need to warm it up a little bit, thin that out. Actually, the first color wasn't bad. Yeah. Put it in there like that. Again, it's just red, yellow, and blue. I mean, in this case, I'm using magenta for my red. It's still red, yellow, and blue. A little bit more magenta. Upward into this color here, which is just another yellow. You see how sophisticated he is with his colors? Oh, it's maybe more sophisticated than anyone. He's certainly way up there. Or if anyone never did get more sophisticated, it was because they might have come later. There's a story that he would take a really long, like maybe 16 feet long, of a 2x6 piece of board, and Theo would send all that oil paint down, and he would pretty dark there. He would mix, like he would take a yellow and mix other colors into it, and mix and mix and mix and mix his own paint. He'd mix his own, and like before he did a painting like this, he would have the whole thing pre-mixed before he went out and painted it. That's why his colors are so solid. They're all thoroughly mixed. And this guy was, nobody did that. He kind of took Monet's idea of color experimentation and just ran with it. Okay, I'm going to do all the centers of these. Of course, if they're a light green, I'm going to use lemon yellow and Prussian blue. Yeah. It's doing it for me. You may have to add some of this theme color to it. That red, yellow, and blue mix if it's too bright. All right, so now I'm heading red, yellow, and blue. Cad red, cad yellow, ultramarine blue again on these lighter ones. Petals. These are about the same. If you notice, they're a little bit darker than the background, but the thing that's separating it from the background is the line he puts around them. And I drew it with a dark pencil, so I don't want to get that intricate. But otherwise, you might as well just do the painting. And down here, we're into some green. So let's mix up some greens. You take the Prussian blue. And lemon yellow. I mean, notice how warm the greens are on this side and how cool they are on this side. So he's adding probably cad yellow to this. Maybe keep on the lemon yellow over here. I don't know. I'll have to get in there and try. There's some of these. Okay, be a little bit bluer. Over here. And so this is the reason we do these, because I'm noticing that like this green over here is much warmer. I'm going to go with the cad yellow. You know, let's try cad yellow and ultramarine blue, which I don't usually do. But it's such a warm green. Oh, that's pretty dark. There we go. So remember, the ultramarine blue has red in it. The Prussian blue has yellow in it, which makes it green, which makes it better for greens in most cases, but you're talking about maybe the most sophisticated, you know, Degas is also extremely sophisticated. Of course, Monet is too, but these are some of the most, oh my gosh, what they must have, the time and thought they must have put into the color choices. So just notice over here, like it gets really warm. I'm seeing a lot of red in that yellow. I'm sorry, red in that green, you know, something more like that. So I'll just make little notes. Sometimes I'll even, you know, redder, etc. Make as many notes as you like. They're your notes, you know. You need to, it's all about you clearing that up for yourself. Let's come up with a really good dark here, maybe. Maybe a little more red in that. That's pretty dark. Some dark in there too. Yeah. Value-wise, I wish it could have been better, but it's not bad. Nice little steadies. So they're just steadies to clear it up for you. Let's see. I'm going to take a photo. Go ahead. I remember my great-grandma when I was a kid. She's a very Victorian woman, you know. That's what my mom used to say anyway. What does that mean, Mom? I don't know. You know, she always rode a granny bike, you know, the three-wheelers with the big, and she had these incredible calves. Like, she rode that thing a lot, but never drove. But, yeah, German. Her last name was Osterfeld, like Ohio farmers or something. She met this big giant Irishman from Chicago. Big personality. That was my great-grandfather. But anyway, I just remember her house looking like this. Everything, when I go visit her, this is the whole thing. Everything was flowers, 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 everywhere. Everywhere. I even remember the soap was shaped like flowers. I think I tried eating it too. You know, I mean, I'm talking about maybe 5 years old or something like that. They were scrumptious looking flower soaps. The place smelled like flowers. Okay. Alrighty. And I'm just gonna start drawing and just start scribbling. It's not exactly in the center, it's a little off to the right. We could just, we got a little space in here in between. You know what I like to do first before I get into too much detail is just kind of scribble it out first. These two, their stems. Now we got this one right in here. And over here. And these. There's the red. And this one, they just look like they're, the wind's blowing on them or something. There's so much rhythm. Got this one over here. And that's kind of the three big ones here in the center. That's there. So I'm definitely off. Got all this green on the bottom here too, which is probably throwing me off. Big one there. Okay, now, does it matter that you don't get the drawing absolutely perfect? I won't tell. Okay, this one. Do those. All right. And the shape of the false base. So maybe that could be a little higher as it was. Just a little higher on this side, this line. There's a little bit of a slope to, like, again, very human. All right. So then if you want to, you can add any sort of details. I'm just going to add a few. I don't want to get too dark with these lines because then the color of the line he puts down doesn't really show up. Since we're not doing it in oil. I mean, you can do it in oil if you like. You know, you won't get exactly the same. Now, if you do have gouache, you'll get pretty close. I'm using water, probably 90% watercolor. I'm not using any gouache. If there's anything you need for the white, now, you know, it could be that if we add a little bit of white, because he's definitely using white in this color in the background, so, I mean, we could. I don't know, could I have gotten closer to that color previous point? I don't know. It's not the same. It's a steady though, right? You still have to go through the same process mixing the colors, and that's probably the biggest lesson to learn here, is how he gets so many variations of yellow. And like I said, he would take that 2x6 and mix like a yellow green, and then give himself maybe 8 different variations on that, and then come back and mix a yellow, like a reddish yellow, give some variations on that, and just go on and on and on, like a mad scientist. Red. I think when it's all over, I'll do a lot of this, just to lighten things up. So, you know, around here it probably won't matter, but in some of these things where he's outlined them, it might matter. So, blue on this one. That looks like he squeezed it out of the tube on there.
Rob?
Yeah.
I was noticing the red and the blue in the sunflowers are sort of on the same line, you know, across from each other.
Oh, how about that, huh?
Yeah. Do you think that just happened, or he had a thought there? Or we'll never know.
Oh, I think he had a thought there, absolutely. I think he had a thought for everything. You know, I remember a kid when I was in grade school, and I instantly knew that I was speaking to somebody that was really, really scary smart. And we started hanging out, but I just remember, I can't remember his name, Bill something. Anyway, Billy. He always had a book in his hand. Always had a book in his hand. Everywhere we go. And he just, when there was nothing to do, he'd be reading like incredible. And then he just, I go, you just read a chapter? I'm like, yeah. But I just remember being, realizing, wow, there's people on this planet that are pretty smart. I ran into a few of them. instantly, they'd know certain things about you instantly, you know. Like, I'd say that I was, you know, I like to draw, and they're like, "You like to draw? You like? Show me your drawings." You know, all over it. Like, "Let me show you your drawing." "Oh, what are you doing? This is great." You know, and they'd be all over it. Him and the same with one other guy I met in high school. Suicidal, you know, extremely. I talked him down probably 5 times. Me and another friend had to talk him down from. He'd go, "Do you know what the world's in?" You know, he'd go on about the state of the world. But it's just one of these people that would be in class, and the teacher would be talking about history, and he'd go, "Oh, but that's not what it says on page blah, 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 blah." And he already read the book. I mean, he didn't come to class, but occasionally he'd come to class and would already have memorized the whole book. I mean, the photographic memory and all that. Crazy.
Whatever happened to the guy that tried to commit suicide?
Oh, I don't know. I remember one night. I really don't know. Lost track of him in college, but you know, he's probably working in Washington. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, my gosh, it was unbelievable. That was unbelievable. I just remember one day he came back. He hadn't slept the whole night, and he goes, "I think I hit a cow last night," because we lived out in Merino Valley, and the time it was all farm. "Yeah, I think I hit a cow last night, Rob." Oh no. Crazy guy. I guess my point there is that genius doesn't come without its downside, you know. I think stuff that most of us would think is common sense, you know, they don't really have the common sense oftentimes. Okay. Well, something like that, and then I'm going to lighten some of this up, especially in the areas where I think I'm going to maybe use a little bit of line around the outside. I'm not building too much. I just use my gummy eraser. It kind of sticks to it instead of rubbing it, you know, into the paper. This just picks it off the paper, which I like. And it's like silly putty. You can take it, stamp it on another piece of paper. Hey George, I think you're not muted. I got you. All right. There we go. Okay, let's get down to beeswax. Going for that chartreuse kind of color, lemon. I have another lemon. Gosh, once we find her, might be worth it. This is it's the lemon I don't like to use because it's got so much white in it. I think that's it. I mean, what do you call this? It's written in Italian. I don't know. Calio, it's cadmium, yeah. Cadmium lemon, but permanent lemon. I don't know, I'm going to put them out there. if it was worth it, but we'll see. It's not dark. It's got a little bit of green in it, so I'm just going to hit a hint, little touches of green in it like that. And I'd rather it be a little bit on the dark, on the light side than the dark side. Now, you could paint this right over a lot of your greens. I don't know about painting over the yellows. Yeah, I see. Definitely some greens in that. That was a lot of green. I like that too. Lemon. A background color will set the tone of this piece. Do I know that he did the background first? No, I do not know. He's a pretty formally trained painter, even though I mean, he did go to school. Might have been kicked out, but as what do you call him, a degenerate painter? How about those smart guys who are smart enough to buy back paintings from the cafe owner for what, $300? Maybe a little more warmth than this now. Let's see. There's some little warms bouncing around in there too. I'm gonna try a little bit of cad yellow. It might be a little strong. Let's see. Some of these areas, yeah, strong. I do see it though, in some of these areas. Even here at the top, a little bit warmer. I love how he kind of cross hatches and stitches his little strokes in there. It's almost a pointillist kind of way of working. Okay. And what else? Down here, I want to get a much darker, not that much, but so I'm just taking the lemon yellow again and adding cad red and ultramarine blue. So we're getting there. Oh, green in that too, huh? A little bit. Okay. So that really helps set the tone. I think maybe I'll take care of this vase first this time. So it's about the same value, maybe just a touch darker than this value and warmer. So I'm going to add more red to it. It's still the same red, yellow, and blue. Cad red, cad red, cad yellow. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, I would use cad red in this one. It's redder. Cad yellow and a little ultramarine blue. Maybe give it a test. Ooh. I guess that sheet's done, huh? Yeah, I like that. It's warmer and a little bit darker. Yeah, that's it. Probably okay to go right over these. Since they have so much in common colors. These petals right here, I just went right over them. Oh, I'll just leave it like that. So I'm basically just doing my bigger shapes first. I'm going to do these. So a similar color to this, but darker. Again, red, yellow, and blue. Cad red, ultramarine blue, and I'm going to use cad yellow. Make up a whole bunch because there's a lot. There's a lot to do. So now I think this is a good value, but I think it's too bright, too red. It needs to be calmed down with blue. Let's see. So it just dulls it down. Yeah, there we go. knowing that's going to dry a little bit lighter. These. And this one's a similar color right here. I would say, a little lighter, a little redder. I'll do all these big ones first. Look at that, I thought I made enough color. Didn't make quite enough. It's a very graphic piece without look barely. Is there any shadows? Are there any shadows? If there's any shadows, it's very subtle, which right there makes it modern. The fact that, and that's such a non-academic thing to do. Leaving out the shadows, I could see how academies would almost be offended by that. You can't have, I remember I had a really academic teacher once. The first thing he said on the first day, and sometimes I say this, but he said, you can't have anything that resembles life and light. I'm sorry, shadows. You can't have shadows and whatever without light. That's what he said. Basically saying that everything you have to have, you can't see without light. So, I mean, it was profound. I never even thought of it before. Never really occurred to me. It's so obvious, but I could tell, and that was the theme for the whole class too. Woo, you had to be faithful to the light. There was no what's the word? You're just there to record it. Yeah, you're not there to interject yourself into it. Any of your own opinions or whatever. So I don't think he would have liked this piece. But I could very well be wrong on that. Better than that. be right over that dark part. So that's almost illegal in the eyes of an academy to not have shadows. Gosh. Also, there's the idea of, you know, dropping it dead center. You know, the whole piece just, you won't see classical compositions with it in dead center like this. Well, the world was changing, right? Right? There we go. A little yellower than that in there. Here. Right, and this one right here, almost the same, but I think a little bit lighter, a little bit redder. I'm gonna leave just some light areas for the yellow. Maybe a little bit of yellow in that too. These ones over here, these yellow greens, I mean, a little bit greener than that. So I'm going to add more yellow and a little bit more blue. Dark. Maybe not quite that. There we go. Much water on there. Getting the using too much water. Let's try it again. Gist of it. There's that red center there. Here we're just getting some lines in there. So small. I'll just Put in the impression of some lines in there. See over here, the same colors. A little darker, right? A little darker than this background. I don't know if you're having my trouble, but I keep putting out a lot of color, and it's still not enough. And oh wow, if you ever tried to copy this in oils, you'd really realize how little paint you're using. He used a lot of paint. There's an understatement. What's also amazing is for being this so-called insane guy or whatever, he really did some very calculated things, especially laying this whole palette. The patience that must have taken. Wow. Laying out all these colors before we even started. I'm sure he did a lot of mixing too, but I think would drive most painters nuts. And who knows, you know? I don't know. Some pretty light ones here. I'm going to draw just a few little outlines. They're not very dark. This one here's got some really light outlines. I'm just going to do the outlines, you know, all these, and then I'll just come back and do the inner part after it's dry. I think I'm going to go into the greens, and I'm going to make me some, just take some Prussian blue, and definitely some lemon yellow, and make some very yellow-green things. I think maybe it might be better on this one to start off with some outlines that's dark. I think I do get some pretty dark ones up here though. That's pretty dark. I don't know why he puts a couple of dark lines up in here. It's almost like he was gonna put some leaves back there and left them out or something.
Rob, this is an oil, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, he did do some watercolors, but really not mostly oils. Just kind of outlining things. I could have put the color in first and then outlined it. It doesn't really matter, I don't think, in our case. I would say in his case, he probably put the color down first and then outlined it, which I'll do a little of that too. Such a great master of line. Wow. Although I was absolutely knocked on my behind when I first looked at Delacroix. When someone pointed out to me that Delacroix, that Van Gogh gets most of his stuff from Delacroix. And then we looked in some books, in the special section of books at Arts and they had a big book on Delacroix, and you could see in the details. Oh my gosh, it looks like Van Gogh did it. So, wow. He had his heroes. Millet's a big hero of Van Gogh. Let's see, there we go. You know, to make up that warm. I see a lot of the warm, except for this one right here, which is kind of a cool green. And there's some cool greens up in here. A lot of these stems are a warm green, which I'm going to make out of ultramarine blue and cad yellow and a little bit of red, or cad red. Let's see how this works. I will use. Messed up on that one. All right. When in doubt, take it out. Some green. Some here. it kind of meanders back to here. Okay. Make those a little bit bigger, huh? Now, what else? Now, it looks like that background dried a little light on me. Nice thing about a drying light is you can always go over it. I don't know if I have time, but I think I might put some of my little eccentrics in there now. So how about the red? I'm going to do that with, I'm going to mix the cadmium and the magenta together, then add them to let's see how this works. Maybe a little redder. I'm adding a little bit of yellow into them. Almost this background color right here. Right. In fact, maybe I should have just painted the background color right over it. Maybe I'll do that. Why didn't I think of that before? Because it's in there. To glaze it over, I think might be a good idea. And I left out this little green right there. Like it. I'll let that dry up a little bit and then put it in there. What's all of this? This is just that light yellow, huh? So I need to come in with some light yellows. Oh, I was going to do my eccentric colors, wasn't I? Dark up in here. Basically a black of some kind. Just maybe Prussian and cat red. It's good. Something dark in between this. It just uses, I don't know, I think he's using ultramarine blue there. No. Something like that. I think that's it. What else? I didn't even realize it. Put this big glaring white right here. Maybe I'll hit that beige color. So red, yellow, and blue. Cad red, cad yellow, ultramarine blue. I'm adding a little bit of magenta to this too. It's just a little bit lighter than that, than this yellow. I mean, it might have a little more yellow in it than that. Just a little more. see if I'll come back. And glaze that red. Because you're glazing it, you see the yellow right through it. Jollywood. I don't know why he has a few little red things right here on the ankle. Those are interesting. And yeah, you know, he also outlines this one in red. Wow. There's all kinds of little details. Alright, then I'm going to make myself a good yellow for the petals, a lot of the petals. A brighter yellow, I'm using lemon yellow. And I'm adding a little bit of, when we had the red, yellow, and blue mixed together, just to mute it down a little bit because it's not as bright as I think. Yeah, that's that could be lighter. So lighter means less paint. There we go. It really cools off the white, cools off the yellow down here. So I'll save that, I'll do that one in a different shade. I'm gonna go for some of that blue or green. Back here. So that's a little bit lighter than that. Yeah. These, whoops. It's not that blue, huh? Oh, I have a little bit more. It's a pretty intense blue. Blue green anyway. Do I see any anywhere else? I think a lot of this color down here is a very light version of that color with just a touch of yellow in it. Let's try this. No. Oops. In the centers of all these, it's a much yellower green. It's a warm too. It's got a lot of red in that. Light green. Let's do something like that. Maybe a little more pigment in here. It's pretty light. Yeah. If I do it like that. That background color. I just need to close in some little gaps. There's a little bit of yellow. Yeah, I'll paint this around it. And then, let's see. I got pretty blue on me. These lines here, dark red. There's magenta. Which, you know, by itself, magenta is just too powerful. So I need to calm it down. I'm going to use the harmonizing color. Most of the yellows we used in here needs yellow in it. And then again, you know, it's still too powerful, so it needs a little blue. Because remember, the complement of red is green. I think that's not bad, but I think it needs to be redder. Okay, but I definitely see on the vase itself it's browner. Maybe a little lighter. This one right here is a little redder. See, a little bit more of that red to it. I can't get this blue line right here because I don't have any white of the paper there. So you could add a little bit of white. You could add a little white to this blue over here too. I'll just take my, this is just white. Get, just titanium white. Add a little bit of blue. Let's see how that works. It's pretty dark. Needs more white. Vincent. It does get kind of dark. I want to see how that dries. Yeah, it looks like it's drying dark. Let me swell that up in there. That is kind of fun. Kind of fun. This is a blast. This whole thing is amazing. I could copy Van Gogh's every day. I remember I copied before, but Van Gogh's Green Mother over there at the Norton Simon, I copied that. I think that was my first real serious copy because I used a really good reproduction, and then I went down and made notes. It wouldn't let me, of course, copy there on the spot. Looking at some of these greens in here too, they get pretty opaque. I mean, maybe a different kind of green than I was using here. I'm wondering if I could. That's a pretty. I used white with the Prussian blue and a little yellow. It's got a bit more yellow in it than that. How's that? I don't hate it. I'll dull it out a little bit. Oof. What else? Left a lot of gap there, didn't I? It's too green. I do see a lot of yellow green back there though. Maybe if I laced it like he did, just kind of, what's the word, cross-hatched. Down like that. Oh. I'll let this go for a little longer. Maybe how about we start turning them in about 11:45? That gives us 10 minutes. Need a little texture in there too. And the more I get into some of these colors, I'm looking at them, wow, he gets really red in there. Oh, well. It's a study, right? It's great to leave these around the studio and just come back and get lost into them once in a while. Really let yourself look at some of these yellows and nuances. He puts little reds around the edges. He really gets into some of these insides and really gives them some subtlety. Great to study. All in all, any of these little comes around with the most little delicate little sensitive edges. A little red here and there. He's really working red throughout the whole piece. I see some red up in here, down here. Around this. Oh, definitely around this. No shadow at all, and completely in the key of yellow, generally a high key painting. He'll do that too. Look at his paintings. Do you have a book on him or something? Or maybe just look at a whole bunch of them on the internet. You'll see he'll use low key, middle key, high key on the value scale. Then he'll key his paintings in the color. He'll color key them in. You'll see an all blue painting, all red, all yellow. He does them all. He does every single one of them. You can't do that without. There's nothing like random about that. His stuff is so thought out.
Why do you think he did no shadow?
Well, you know, I mean, he was the one that said that the people that haven't, that will understand my paintings aren't born yet. So I think that he knew that painting was going in a direction of, you know, not being the camera anymore, being more of the soul. So that's really what modern painting is all about. This is why so many modern painters say, "What do you need a school for?" What you should do is go out and paint a lot and study, 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 and read, and think, but
don't follow rules.
The academies. I mean, I think it's a balance of both, and even Van Gogh's an academically trained painter. Look at his early stuff. Gosh, even this isn't that far. It's just so highly stylized. So in order to get style, an artist must take chances and push beyond anything they've seen before. So to paint a painting without shadows, I'll tell you, it is envied though. It's a coveted thing amongst academic painters to have as little shadow as possible and still pull it off. That's a very coveted thing. And I think maybe he was saying, well, I could do that. I don't even need shadow. Who knows? All right, let's see where we are now. Not too far off. I like that. All right, so we got, maybe try to have them in by 5 minutes or so. Okay. I'm gonna step out for a minute, but I'm gonna keep the recording going because I'll forget. see where we are. We've got a couple. All right, I'll begin. Clear, had to stop. Okay, it's fine. Oh, nice land. I'd say well on your way right there. Nice. Nice choices of color. Look at all these different yellows. I mean, you've got the redder yellow, I guess more of an ochre or an umber right there. A little bit greener. Definitely a warm yellow. And then in the background, just kind of faded that in so far. Whereas this bottom part is much more complete. And totally fine to do the background. I like how you sort of modulated it first. Glaze your color right over it. I mean, it is very modulated, so. The only thing I think I do is steer clear of these blue greens. I know there's some down here, definitely. Looks like you did them in light, so you're going to come over here with something darker. They look to be, I think they're a little bit warmer than that, but we'll see. Work in progress. Okay, thank you. And whoops, where are we at here? What happened there? Oh. Okay, this is Diane, right?
Yep.
Hi, Diane.
It's very anemic looking.
Anemic? You mean pasty, pale?
Yeah, it's pretty anemic. I think I need to go over it with another pass.
No, I'm wondering if that's the photograph too.
Well, like maybe. I don't know.
Sometimes the lighting, can make it overexposed. So I don't know, but nice choices of color.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I took the photo by a window, so.
Okay, well that's gonna. You notice how the window light will cool?
Yeah.
Cooler.
Yeah.
It'll cool down your color, so.
Yeah.
Because you're getting all the sky in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the shade, right? The window?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. So there's definitely, it's indirect light, but it's the window.
Yeah. Nice looking colors, like your outlining. A lot of rhythm, a lot of different yellows. You get your cool greener yellows in the background, warmer yellows in the flowers. Yeah, this might be one of those you might want to just let it hang around, just keep it on the keep it on the pad, and then every once in a while come in and just mess around with it.
I think I might want to go back in with opaque color or something, just to maybe bring out some of those petals that don't show up very well. There's a lot I think I need to do on this, but it was fun. It was really fun.
This is nice work.
Oh,
as usual.
Oh well. I tried. I don't know how nice it is, but I tried. Appreciate it.
Very nice.
Oh.
You left out the name though.
Yeah, I didn't mention that part.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Cindy. All right. Now on the other side, yours looks a little on the warm side. So, did you take this under regular lights?
I just took it with the lights off because I kept getting shadows.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that can happen. Yeah. You mean because of the rippling in the paper, or?
No, holding up the phone. The
yeah.
shadow of the phone was in the picture, so I just turned the lights off.
Yeah.
It probably is a little warm. It just kept getting warmer and warmer.
All right. Nice drawing. Love your handling of it. You got the outlining, great, nice looking shapes.
Just
Let's make sure we're all muted, okay? Let's see what else. Let's see. Got great outlining. Nice color. I maybe. What do you think about throwing in a little more solid background color?
I was starting to do that, but that's really dangerous with watercolor. Not slammed in a little more. You can see making a little darker, but
Yeah.
I should do that in the beginning because if you run into the greens, then you have a problem.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's not very dry.
I like this color you're using right in here.
What is that? It's a
This-
cadmium lemon yellow.
Yeah. So definitely a cooler yellow. It's probably the same as this though. Yeah.
No, I splonked some other yellows on it.
I know, really, huh? It's an exercise in yellow. Yellow.
I may as well clean off the palette onto the watercolor paper.
Yeah. Very nice work.
Thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful graphic work. Yeah. Notice how the line, everyone, just notice how the line instantly makes things graphic, which would be a very illegal thing to do in academic circles. Again, Van Gogh takes everything and flips it on its ear. For style. For the reason of style. Or maybe he was just thumbing his nose at academia, who knows? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Suzanne. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Lots of rhythm going on here. What, you on the hot press paper there or what?
No, it's my cheap paper again. But it's also more colorful than the photograph, so I think I got a lot of outside light bleaching it. That is lighter than my painting.
It looks, yeah, it looks like it, what is it, overexposed, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of nice
I think
rhythm going on here. Yeah?
it's a little weedy looking. Maybe too many lines, I'm thinking.
Maybe come back and outline things.
Okay.
I know you're not used to doing that. Oftentimes when you paint from life, you just paint tone meeting tone. What he does is he outlines so much. A little more outlining, I think, would Van Gogh it out a little bit.
Okay.
And so it's all these edges, you know. Weedy. That's an interesting word. Yeah, maybe what you mean is, I don't know what you mean. You mean like stringy or something, or what do you mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. He probably doesn't have as many petals and probably outlines quite a bit more.
Right. Okay.
You know, it's a Van Gogh thing. The outline. It's good for style. Outlining it would definitely flatten things. So, you know, if you're trained from this, even photorealism, even in today's world, when you study academics, it's always about making things look more realistic. So to throw in lines, well, you're like, hey, wait a second, that's not realistic, because there aren't lines around everything. But stylistically speaking, it's a good move. So it's Van Gogh training us all over again. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Nice work. And I'm not sure who this is. I just saw a phone number. Does anybody know who this is? This is 310.
Yeah, that's me. That's me, Rob. Maria.
Maria. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
There you go. And
Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun. Very difficult. a lot of fun.
Yeah. Now, did you take yours by the window light?
Yes,
Yeah, because it looks a little cooler.
I had the same problem with the phone shade.
With the what
You
shade?
try to take a picture and you get the
Oh,
phone on the picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's because the light's behind you then, right?
Right.
So, let's see. Nice looking colors. Now, I can't tell exactly the colors, but it looks like they could have a little more yellow in them.
Yes, definitely. I couldn't get the colors were the hardest part.
Oh, he's the one to study for color, really. That's the thing, probably the thing you want to study. I mean, he's got many sides to them, but color is huge. What he does with color, I mean, Monet did almost everything, and then Van Gogh did everything else. So yeah, I would try taking some of these red inside ones, these big ones, and just try working a little bit of yellow into them.
Okay.
That'll do a lot right there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I put a lot of yellow at the end, just trying to get a little light because it looks so.
Right. See, your instincts took over. And by the way, that's what'll happen to everybody. You notice how when the wire, when it comes down to the wire, and you gotta hurry up and get things done, you'll do things instinctively because you don't have any choice.
Right, that's what it felt. It looked, yeah, it needed more.
Listen to your instincts. Listen to them. They know. They know to go ahead and make up a wheel. Okay.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah. Teresa 2. Any more, you guys? Let's get those in, okay? All right. Teresa.
Yes.
2. Now that's got a lot of yellow in it. Look at all that yellow. You got the greener yellows, or should I say cooler yellows in the back, warmer yellows in the front on the petals, redder yellows, browner yellows. What do you think? Any yeah.
I'm beginning to work into doing some of the outline in watercolor pencil now. And it really makes a difference on the flowers.
Oh, look at, yeah, I never thought about doing that.
Really, it helps to define the flowers, but they're so much fun to paint.
Wow.
And this looks so much browner on the top of the vase. It's much more brown.
You notice, by the way, I just want to point this out to everybody. You notice how we're all really tuned into color today? I mean, we're all of us are doing what you're doing right now. You're like, oh, the color's just so, just a little bit off here, and a little bit more there, because he's so sensitive. He's really tuned you into all that color. Now you're seeing all kinds of, even with the photograph, you're going, well, that's not what I'm looking at. It's just a little bit warmer than this, and that's So the more you do this, the more your eye gets built.
He really is a teacher for color. We could do more of this in time, I think.
All right. So I could see maybe a little more outlining,
Mm-hmm.
if you like. This is a little too dark, but
Yeah.
Definitely up here. Just separating a few things, in there. And that'll really Van Gogh it out too. I like your colors. I like the way you're using line. Line almost implies drawing, but then everybody thinks because you're using paint you can't draw. Well, you can. He is drawing. He's drawing back into it with line.
Right.
And you are too. And you're doing. This is very nice. This is very nice. All this in here. All your greens are really nicely done. This is beautiful.
I think my favorite flower, which I have not perfected, is the totally dead one up in the upper right hand. That one. That flower would be so fun to perfect.
Yeah, I didn't.
A dead
I put enough into it, but I think maybe some of the darker. Into it.
Mm-hmm.
It looks wilted though, right? He really pushes the wilted.
Yeah, most of these flowers are on their last legs. I just love it.
Yeah, George was saying earlier. Do you think it's a
depression?
It's saying something about him. I don't know.
Yeah.
He did paint it a year before he passed away, so.
Maybe he got the whole arrangement out of the trash.
I think he lived in a place that had lots of flowers, George. Maybe, but I think it might be his statement.
Yeah.
His point of view, But it's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
I think he just found beauty in every shape, so I don't know.
That's another thing. He really, he would paint the migrant workers or any sort of like, I don't know if they were immigrants, but that they were, a lot of poor people. He painted the, the other side of life.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
Forgotten people, forgotten things. The forgotten, like maybe these were forgotten in a trash can, and he thought that they were beautiful. I don't know.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That would be a wonderful thought.
Forgotten things, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Definitely.
I didn't even know these were dips. I mean, all of us have seen this painting since we were in kindergarten, but it never really occurred to me that this was a bunch of almost dead sunflowers.
Yeah, that's true. Huh? Yeah, I never thought about that either.
Yeah.
I just was looking at the beautiful colors.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's why doing these, trying to reproduce these things is so instructive.
Yeah.
In the past, I always thought the ones without petals hadn't formed their petals yet, but it's completely opposite.
No, George, you're way too positive.
It's gotten me through life.
Okay.
Good. Good.
It's all very fun. Okay, thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, we've got Helen now. Oh, Helen. Very, very nice. You're doing the red-green thing again.
I really used a lot of yellow.
I know you did.
But yeah, I put more red in it.
It's got a lot of red and green in it as well.
Yeah.
There's like, I always like, I can't wait to see you paint when we get toward Christmas though. She's just, everybody does, she does a lot of complementary colors, and red and greens are a couple of the faves.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so a little bit more outlining, I think, might Van Gogh it out a little bit. That's easy to do, and he probably did a lot more of that toward the end.
You're right. I did. I was doing it definitely more at the end. So just do more outlining of everything.
A little redder there. Maybe.
Yeah.
A little brown on here.
Yeah.
Not a lighter brown. He does a blue thing in there, I think. Kind of a.
Up in there. Oh, okay.
Vincent.
Like the signature. Yeah.
Whatever. And then
like outline the dead flower.
Yeah, I see her outlining in there. I just might be a little more bold with it.
Just do more of it. Yeah.
It's a little maybe here and there a bit thicker. I don't know. My line's probably too thick. But it gets pretty thick.
Right, it'll make the petals pop more.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do.
hallucinating. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Helen. And Suzanne, just in case. Oh, yeah, it was just this one. Oh. What? We did two?
This is Carol's painting because
Didn't seem to come through.
I see. Wow, okay. Very nice. Pretty bold. Maybe a little red, huh?
Maybe so, yeah.
Maybe I would have got a little more yellow, something closer to these. In here,
Okay.
I know they do have, they're very dark and maybe more toward the raw umber color.
Yeah, yellow.
Or yellow in it. But now this looks also, it looks like, and a lot of cameras do take a redder photograph, so it looks like it is a little bit warmer than probably what you have.
I think it does. It look redder than what I painted, but
I mean, you haven't done too much outlining yet. I think when you do a little more outlining in the petals,
okay.
because you've got some in here, these are really cool. But the greens look pretty good. Yeah, just some petals. I think that some petalization. You know, a couple of these little, big guys in there. I think would sort of Van Gogh it out a little bit here and there. Basically, this is everything. Your technique, your approach looks correct. I'm thinking these could be a little bit more on the yellow side, and that's all I just said that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But this brave line you're putting around the greens, I would continue that theme with all the petals, and I think and then these look a little light to me in the center. I think they're a little, maybe a touch darker and a touch greener, possibly. I don't have the right colors here, but that's obviously too dark. But I do have this thing. Maybe I could go with that. A little
greener.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not getting exactly the right color, but oh well. All right, so a little outlining, little touches of color here and there, but your approach is very correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. A little more petalization and a little bit more.
Word of the day.
Umbrage. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Introduction to Robert's lingo. All right. I'm sorry, I didn't look at them. Lily. Now that definitely looks bluish. Now, are you taking this by like an ultraviolet light or something, or?
No, actually near my window, so I don't have to use.
Now here's what could happen too. Your camera might take a cool photograph. Did you use a flash, by the way?
No, not at all.
But your camera could take a cool photograph, and then the window also takes that. That also makes it cool. So the combination of the two, could make you just cool off your color a bit. So.
Okay, my window is very bright. Maybe that's the reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're getting a lot of. Is it in the shade? Yeah, it's in. You're not getting direct sunlight, right?
It is direct sunlight.
Well, I mean, the sun isn't coming through your window, is it?